The crackling fire cast dancing shadows against the ancient trees, their branches reaching like skeletal fingers towards a sky dusted with a million impossible stars. The scent of pine and campfire smoke hung heavy in the cool night air, mingling with the sweet smell of roasted marshmallows. Laughter, warm and genuine, echoed through the clearing, blending with the soft strumming of Mark's cheap guitar. I, Hilda, a seemingly unassuming college student, felt a rare sense of belonging. This weekend picnic, deep in the sprawling woods outside of Fairfield University, was exactly what I needed. My boyfriend Mark sat beside me, his arm loosely draped around my shoulders. He was charming, popular, with a ready smile and an effortless cool that always seemed just a little out of my reach. Around us, our small circle of friends, Chloe with her endless anecdotes, Jake with his quiet humor, and the twins, Liam and Lily, always bickering good-naturedly, were sharing stories, their faces illuminated by the flickering flames. We were, or so I believed, a tight-knit group. Mark had brought up the idea of this off-grid camping trip, a digital detox he'd called it, a chance to escape the pressures of campus life. No phones, just nature and each other. It sounded perfect. I'd packed light, a well-worn sleeping bag, a small backpack with essentials, and a few granola bars. Mark had ribbed me about my minimalist approach, joking about my student budget. I just smiled. He didn't know the half of it. I was always careful with money, every penny earned from my part-time library job meticulously saved. He saw it as a quirk. I saw it as survival. But out here, under the vast, indifferent sky, those anxieties seemed to melt away. For once, I felt completely at ease, truly accepted. As the night wore on, the laughter softened to sleepy murmurs. The fire dwindled to glowing embers. One by one, friends drifted off to their tents or to their sleeping bags laid out under the stars. Mark kissed my forehead, whispered, "Good night, gorgeous," and curled up in his own sleeping bag a few feet away. I snuggled deeper into my worn sleeping bag, the subtle chill of the forest air a comforting blanket. Sleep came easily, a deep, dreamless slumber. The first thing I registered was the cold, a bone-deep, penetrating chill that seeped into my very core, far colder than the night before. I shivered, pulling the sleeping bag tighter. But it wasn't there. My fingers met thin air. My eyes fluttered open, heavy with sleep, and then snapped wide open. The sky above was a pale, watery gray, hinting at the first blush of dawn. But something was terribly, fundamentally wrong. The clearing was bathed in an eerie silence, broken only by the rustle of leaves and the distant chirping of birds. No crackling fire, no sleepy murmurs, no gentle snores. My head snapped up. Where was Mark? Where were Chloe, Jake, Liam, Lily? My eyes darted around the campsite, a growing sense of dread clawing at my throat. The tents were gone. The cooler was gone. The portable chairs, the picnic blankets, the scattered remnants of last night's meal, all gone. Even the embers of the fire pit were cold, long dead. My heart pounded, a frantic drum against my ribs. A sickening wave of nausea washed over me. This wasn't right. This wasn't a joke. My sleeping bag, my backpack, everything was gone. I was lying directly on the cold, damp earth, wearing only my thin pajamas. The chilling realization hit me. The entire group had left, abandoning me. Panic, cold and sharp, pierced through the last vestiges of sleep. I scrambled to my feet, my muscles stiff and sore. "Mark?" I called out, my voice thin, reedy, swallowed by the vastness of the woods. "Chloe?" "Guys." Only the mocking echo of my own voice answered. I spun in a slow circle, my eyes frantically scanning the tree line. There was no trace, no footprints leading out, nothing but the undisturbed fallen leaves. It was as if they had simply vanished, lifted into thin air. But the missing gear, my missing gear, proved otherwise. They had packed up, and they had left me. Why? What kind of sick joke was this? My mind raced, searching for an explanation, any explanation, to rationalize this horrifying reality. Had I slept through something? A sudden emergency? No, they would have woken me. Mark would have woken me. Wouldn't he? A new wave of fear, colder than the dawn air, washed over me. This wasn't just a mistake, this was deliberate. My stomach clenched. They had abandoned me deep in the woods, hours from civilization, without even my basic supplies. My phone. My phone was usually in my backpack. I patted my pockets frantically. Nothing. My heart pounded as the chilling realization hit her. The entire group had left, abandoning her. A profound sense of terror and confusion enveloped me. Then a small, hard lump in the pocket of my pajama pants. My fingers closed around it. My phone. A gasp of relief escaped my lips. I must have slipped it in there last night, a subconscious act of rebellion against Mark's digital detox rule. It was my lifeline. My fingers, trembling, fumbled with the screen. It flickered to life, the battery icon dangerously low. I had 1 bar, 1 chance. I immediately scrolled to Mark's contact. My thumb hovered over the call button, a tremor running through my hand. This had to be a prank, a terrible, cruel prank. He would answer, laugh, and tell me where they were. He had to. I pressed call. The phone rang, once, twice, 3 times. Each ring was an eternity, punctuated by the frantic drumming of my heart. And then he answered. The phone rang, once, twice, 3 times, each ring a hammer blow against the frantic pounding in my chest. Then he answered. Hello? His voice, usually so charming, was distorted by a faint crackle, but still recognizable. My breath hitched. Mark! Oh my God, Mark! Where are you guys? Why did you leave me? This isn't funny! I blurted out, relief and panic warring within me. I expected laughter, an apology, a punchline to this cruel joke. His response, however, was chilling. His voice, when he finally answered, was laced with cruel laughter. It wasn't the good-natured teasing of a friend, but a sharp, mocking sound that scraped against my raw nerves. Oh, Hilda, he sneered, dragging out my name as if it tasted foul. You actually thought we'd stay? Out in the middle of nowhere? Just for you? My heart plummeted. What are you talking about? This is our trip, our friends. We're just messing with you, Hilda, he scoffed, the laughter growing louder, joined by a faint, muffled giggle in the background, a female giggle. My stomach dropped. Did you really think we'd stick around? It's like 6 a.m. Nobody wants to pack up in the dark just for you. The casual cruelty of his words, the dismissive tone, felt like a physical slap. This wasn't a prank. This was something far more malicious. Mark, what's going on? I demanded, my voice trembling with a mixture of fear and burgeoning anger. Why would you do this? I have nothing. My backpack, my sleeping bag, everything is gone. Then his tone turned cold. The laughter vanished, replaced by a cutting iciness that sent shivers down my spine. Look, Hilda, let's be real. This whole poor but artistic thing? It was cute for a bit, but I've moved on. A cold dread spread through me. Moved on? I'm dating someone new, he continued, his voice dripping with condescension. Someone who actually gets it, someone who's on my level. You know, money, connections, actual future. My mind reeled. Dating someone new? But we had just... last night. Her name's Tiffany, he bragged, his voice swelling with obnoxious pride. Tiffany Sterling. You know, Sterling Technologies. Her family owns the biggest tech company on campus. They practically own half the city, actually. I'm talking real wealth, Hilda. Private jets, penthouses, trust funds. Not some library part-timer counting pennies for ramen. The words hit me like a physical blow, each one designed to wound, to diminish, to utterly crush. He broke up with her, bragging about his new girlfriend, Tiffany, the wealthy heiress whose family owned the biggest tech company on campus. Tiffany, the girl who always wore designer clothes to class, who drove a brand-new Mercedes convertible, who exuded an air of effortless superiority. Mark, The boy who swore he loved my quirky independence, my simple charm, was now parading his new, wealthy conquest. "I'm not dating a poor girl like you anymore," he taunted, the final brutal cut. "Honestly, Hilda, what did you expect? You're just not in my league. Have fun walking back. Maybe you can hitchhike with a squirrel." And with that, before I could even formulate a response, before the tears could sting my eyes, he hung up. The line went dead, leaving me in the crushing silence of the forest, the cold phone pressed against my ear. My anger flared, hot and immediate. It wasn't just the humiliation, though, that burned fiercely. It was the deliberate cruelty, the calculated effort to abandon me, vulnerable and alone, simply to make a point. This wasn't just a breakup, it was a public humiliation, a calculated act of cruelty. My hands balled into fists, trembling with a fury that transcended mere heartbreak. How could he? How could they? But as the initial surge of rage began to recede, it was quickly overshadowed by a quiet resolve, a different kind of anger, a cold, hard certainty. Mark thought he had put me in my place. He thought he had exposed my poverty and left me utterly powerless. He thought I was just some pathetic, abandoned girl. He was wrong. So utterly, disastrously wrong. My mind, usually prone to overthinking, now moved with a startling clarity. The low battery icon on my phone pulsed ominously. 1 bar. I had 1 shot. I ignored the instinct to call him back, to scream, to plead. That would only give him more satisfaction. No, this required a different approach. A quiet, decisive action. I scrolled through my contacts, past names of friends, past family. I found the number, a secure, direct line. I pressed call. The phone rang once. A crisp, professional voice answered immediately. "Sir?" "It's Hilda," I said, my voice calm, steady, betraying none of the turmoil raging within me. "I need a pickup. Location, Redwood Creek, 3 miles north of the Fairfield University hiking trail entrance. Coordinates approximately ... I recited the precise GPS coordinates that had been drilled into me since childhood, a skill acquired not from college classes, but from a very different kind of education. There was a brief pause on the other end, a flicker of surprise. "Miss Hilda? Is everything all right? We weren't expecting a request from that location." The concern was genuine, immediate. "Everything is quite all right now," I replied, a cold smile touching my lips. "Just a slight miscalculation in travel arrangements, and I need to be back on campus immediately. Let's say in the next 15 minutes. "Understood, Miss Hilda. Consider it done. ETA 10 minutes. The line clicked dead. I tucked the phone back into my pajama pocket, the low battery icon a silent victory. I looked around the deserted campsite, the cold ashes of the fire pit, the fallen leaves that still bore the faint indentations of sleeping bags that were no longer there. Mark thought he had left me stranded, helpless. He thought my poverty made me weak. He thought he had seen all there was to see of Hilda. He was about to learn a very different lesson, the kind of lesson that can only be delivered from above. The distant thud of helicopter blades grew louder, a low rumble that vibrated through the earth beneath my feet. It started as a faint whisper on the wind, then swelled into a powerful, rhythmic beat that vibrated through the very trees. Mark and his privileged friends, basking in their cruel victory, had no idea what was coming. They had played a game they didn't understand, with rules they didn't know existed. And I, Hilda, was about to deliver the checkmate. The sun began to peek over the horizon, painting the sky in fiery oranges and purples. It was going to be a beautiful day, for me, at least. The thudding grew louder, a deep, rhythmic pulse vibrating through the very ground beneath my feet. It wasn't the distant hum of a commercial plane. This was closer, more powerful. The sound swelled into a deafening roar, whipping the leaves and loose dirt into a swirling vortex around me. I squinted against the sudden gale, my pajamas flapping wildly. Then, through the rising dust, I saw it, a sleek, dark gray shape descending from the sky, glinting in the nascent sunlight. A private helicopter, It was larger, more imposing than I'd imagined, its twin rotors slicing through the air with intimidating grace. A sleek, private helicopter descended into the clearing, kicking up leaves and dust. The ground shook as it touched down, precisely in the center of the small clearing where hours earlier Mark had so carelessly abandoned me. The wind it generated was incredible, flattening the tall grasses and tugging at my hair. The pilot, a professional-looking man in a sharp, dark uniform, emerged from the cockpit as the rotors slowly began to decelerate, still whooshing with immense power. He walked towards me with purpose, his face unreadable but his movements efficient. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. He simply offered a brief, respectful nod and gestured towards the open passenger door. There was no surprise in his eyes, no judgment of my disheveled appearance or my pajamas, just quiet professionalism. He gestured for me to board. I walked towards the helicopter, each step deliberate, the cold earth still damp beneath my bare feet. My heart was still pounding, but it was no longer from panic. It was from a potent mix of anticipation and a simmering, righteous fury. Mark thought he had left me powerless, stranded. He was about to get a very rude awakening. I calmly stepped inside the luxurious cabin. The interior was plush, all soft leather seats and polished chrome. It smelled faintly of new car and something else, a subtle, expensive scent I couldn't quite place. The pilot secured my seatbelt with a practiced hand, then returned to the cockpit. The door clicked shut, sealing me off from the waking forest. The rotors whirred, then spun faster, building to a powerful crescendo. The helicopter lifted off the ground with surprising smoothness, rising effortlessly above the tree line. Below, the clearing, where I had spent a terrifying night and endured a cruel betrayal, shrank rapidly, becoming an insignificant speck. I watched it disappear, a chapter of my life definitively closed. We banked sharply, heading directly back towards the college campus. I knew exactly where Mark and his new girlfriend Tiffany would be, the campus quad. On sunny mornings like this, especially after a weekend, it was the social hub, bustling with students, a prime location for Mark to parade his new conquest and revel in his perceived victory. My lips curled into a grim smile. The flight was exhilarating. The world below unfolded like a living map. The dense green of the woods gave way to sprawling suburban neighborhoods, then the familiar grid of Fairfield University. From this vantage point, the campus looked almost like a miniature city, the Gothic spires of the older buildings contrasting with the modern glass facades of the newer ones. I spotted the sprawling complex of Sterling Hall, home to the university's cutting-edge tech department, funded almost entirely by Tiffany's family. As we neared the campus, the pilot's voice came through the intercom, calm and precise. ETA, 1 minute to campus quad, Miss Hilda. Crowd below appears to be significant. Perfect, I murmured, my gaze fixed on the familiar green expanse of the quad. It was indeed bustling. Students lounged on blankets, played frisbee, chatted in groups, and there, right in the center, was a cluster of people. I recognized Mark immediately, his blonde head glinting in the sun. And next to him, Tiffany. Even from this height, her signature expensive sunglasses and effortlessly chic outfit were unmistakable. They were probably regaling their friends with tales of their prank, basking in their moment of perceived glory. The helicopter descended slowly, deliberately, its powerful rotors creating a sudden, unexpected downdraft that sent books, frisbees, and even a few startled students scattering. Heads snapped up, conversations ceased. A collective gasp rippled through the crowd as the sleek dark machine hovered directly over the quad, its shadow engulfing them. The wind from the blades whipped their hair, plastered their clothes against them. They squinted upwards, shielding their eyes, utterly bewildered. The pilot brought the helicopter down with practiced ease, landing precisely on the manicured grass of the quad, sending a fresh flurry of leaves and dust swirling around the startled students. It was an entrance designed to command attention, to disrupt, to announce a presence that could not be ignored. The rotors whined down, slowly, dramatically, the whirring sound gradually fading to a low hum. The silence that followed was profound, heavy with anticipation. Every eye on the quad was fixed on the helicopter, a sudden alien presence in their familiar college world. Then the pilot emerged, opened the passenger door, and extended a hand. He didn't need to help me. My leg was fine now, no longer fractured. But the gesture itself was powerful, a silent declaration of respect and privilege. I calmly stepped outside, taking a deep breath of the surprisingly fresh campus air, still tinged with the scent of pine carried from the woods. My pajamas, though simple, now felt like a uniform, a silent defiance against the designer clothes I knew Mark and Tiffany wore. I stood there for a moment, letting the eyes of the entire quad wash over me. Mark and Tiffany were standing frozen, barely 20 feet away, their faces a mixture of confusion and utter disbelief. Mark's mouth was slightly agape. Tiffany's perfect features were contorted into a puzzled frown behind her oversized sunglasses. They had clearly been mid-conversation, probably rehearsing their cruel tale of my abandonment. As I began to walk towards them, slowly, deliberately, a piercing ring cut through the stunned silence. Tiffany's phone. She fumbled for it, her movements unusually clumsy. She brought it to her ear, her brow furrowed. "Hello?" she said, her voice a little too high, a little too nervous. I kept walking, my gaze fixed on her. And then her expression shifted. Her eyes, visible now as she took off her sunglasses, widened in shock, then in terror. Her face drained of all color, her shoulders hunched. She looked like a child caught stealing a cookie. "Dad?" she stammered, her voice barely a whisper. What are you talking about, Miss Hilda?" From where I stood, I could hear the faint, muffled roar of a furious voice on the other end of the line, even over the lingering hum of the helicopter rotors. Her father, he was clearly not pleased at all. Tiffany's eyes darted from her phone to me, then back to her phone, a look of utter bewilderment and growing dread on her face. She took a step back, then another, as if trying to physically distance herself from the incoming verbal assault. But Dad," she stuttered, "I don't understand." The voice on the phone erupted again, louder this time, a clear, unmistakable torrent of furious reprimand. I caught snippets, even from this distance. "Unacceptable. Disrespect. Apologize immediately to Miss Hilda. Now!" Tiffany's face was now a mask of pure terror. She dropped her phone, not caring that it clattered on the ground, her eyes, wide and panicked, fixed on me. She took a trembling step forward, then practically lunged, stumbling slightly. "Miss Hilda!" she cried out, her voice high-pitched and desperate. She reached for me, her hands outstretched in a pleading gesture. "Oh my God, Miss Hilda, I am so incredibly sorry. I had no idea. My father—" I stopped, my eyes cold. Mark, still standing there, looked from Tiffany's frantic, groveling apology to me, his face a picture of utter bewilderment. His jaw hung open. He had no idea what was happening, but the clear panic in Tiffany's demeanor and the implication of her father's furious phone call were unmistakable. "Tiffany," I said, my voice calm, clear, cutting through her desperate apologies. "It's all right. Just pick up your phone and listen to your father." Tiffany snatched up her phone, her hands shaking, and brought it back to her ear. She stammered out more apologies, her gaze fixed on me, pleading. Then she slowly turned towards Mark, her face still pale, but now hardened with a sudden, dawning realization. "Mark," she said, her voice trembling, but gaining a newfound steel. "We're done. It's over. Right now." She paused, then added, her voice chillingly precise, "And you absolute idiot. You have no idea what you've done." Mark's face was a mixture of shock, confusion, and utter devastation. He tried to protest, to grab Tiffany's arm, but she pulled away as if burned. He looked from her to me, then back to the silent, imposing helicopter, realization slowly dawning in his eyes, a horrifying understanding of the magnitude of his mistake. He had abandoned a poor girl, thinking her utterly insignificant. He had just set himself up for a fall far greater than he could ever imagine. The script had just been flipped, and he was completely, utterly out of his league. As Tiffany ended her call, her eyes wide with a terror I could almost pity, she turned to Mark. "Mark," she choked out, her voice barely a whisper. "We're done. Over. My dad just told me." She looked at me, then back at him, her voice gaining a desperate edge. "His company, Sterling Technologies, it's a subsidiary of Hilda's family's global corporation. My dad's company works for her family. Oh my God, you have no idea what you've done." She practically shrieked the last part, then stumbled away from him, leaving him standing there, alone, as the realization finally hit him. The poor girl he had just abandoned and humiliated wasn't poor at all. She was, in fact, the one holding the keys to his new girlfriend's father's empire. The irony was so exquisite it almost tasted sweet. Mark, his face a mask of shame and disbelief, tried desperately to win me back. He lunged forward, grabbing my arm, his eyes wide and pleading. "Hilda, wait. What is she talking about? This is crazy. I made a mistake. A terrible mistake. You know I love you, Hilda. This was just a stupid prank, right? A joke gone wrong. Please, don't leave me." His words, once so charming, now sounded pathetic, hollow. He was scrambling, desperate, trying to salvage his carefully constructed world. The love he professed was clearly a panicked attempt to cling to the sudden, unexpected revelation of my true status. My arm, where his hand grasped, felt cold. I simply met his pleas with a cold, unwavering gaze. My eyes, which had shed tears of pain and humiliation just hours ago, were now clear, focused, and utterly devoid of emotion. "You showed me who you truly are, Mark," I stated, my voice calm and firm, cutting through his pathetic pleas like a surgical blade. My tone was level, unwavering, a stark contrast to his desperation. His grip loosened, his eyes searched mine, desperately looking for a flicker of the old Hilda, the girl who might forgive him, who might understand. He found nothing. "You showed me that you value money and status above kindness, loyalty, or even basic human decency," I continued, each word a deliberate hammer blow. "You showed me that when you think you have nothing to gain from someone, you're willing to abandon them, literally or figuratively. You left me in the woods, Mark, alone, without a second thought." He flinched, his face paling even further. "Hilda, no, I don't date people who abandon me, literally or figuratively," I finished, pulling my arm free from his weak grasp. My voice was quiet, but it resonated with an authority he had never heard from me before. It was a finality, an unshakable boundary. I turned away from him, leaving him utterly defeated. He stood there, frozen, amidst the stunned silence of the quad, the whirring hum of the helicopter a mocking backdrop to his public downfall. Tiffany had already fled, probably to call her father again and beg for mercy. Mark was left with nothing but the echo of my words, the humiliating truth of his own actions laid bare for everyone to see. As I walked away, the pilot already opening the helicopter door for me, a sense of profound liberation washed over me. The weight of pretending, of being the unassuming girl, of constantly downplaying who I was, lifted from my shoulders. The false friendships, built on convenience and superficiality, crumbled behind me. I was Hilda, now unburdened by false friendships and superficial relationships, finally embracing her authentic self. My story became an instant campus legend. The Hilda helicopter incident, as it was quickly dubbed, spread like wildfire, morphing into whispers and awestruck recounts. It wasn't just a dramatic exit, it was a powerful statement. My true worth, my real background, was suddenly and undeniably revealed. It taught everyone that appearances can be deceiving, and that arrogance and cruelty inevitably lead to a very public downfall. I continued my studies, but with a newfound confidence. The library job? That was simply a passion, not a necessity. I became more selective about who I spent my time with. Genuine connections formed, built on shared interests and mutual respect, not on pretense or status. I found true friends, people who valued me for me, not for my family's wealth, and certainly not for what I could give them. Mark, the last I heard, dropped out of Fairfield University a semester later. The humiliation was too great, the whispers too loud. Tiffany's father, a pragmatic businessman, had reportedly pulled his company's internship program from Fairfield as a direct result of Tiffany's misguided behavior and association with Mark. Mark's path to social climbing and easy money had imploded spectacularly. He went off to work in some anonymous sales job, a stark contrast to the glittering corporate future he had envisioned. He had to learn the hard way that integrity, not inherited connections, is the only true currency. My story, a powerful testament to the idea that true worth lies not in material possessions or social status, but in integrity, self-respect, and quiet power, resonated far beyond the campus quad. It reminded people that the quiet ones, the unassuming ones, often hold the most formidable strength. It taught everyone that appearances can be deceiving, and that arrogance and cruelty inevitably lead to a very public downfall. It wasn't just about revenge, it was about balance, about consequence, about the universe correcting a grave injustice. I had always been taught that true power isn't about flaunting what you have, but about using it wisely, subtly, and with purpose. That day, I put that lesson into practice, and it was incredibly liberating. I continue to live my life with purpose and integrity, knowing that my true value is inherent, not defined by external validation or inherited wealth. The helicopter ride was just a dramatic punctuation mark at the end of a very difficult sentence, signaling the beginning of a truly authentic chapter. And so, the story of Hilda, the unassuming college student who taught a valuable lesson in integrity and self-worth, concludes. Her journey reminds us that appearances can be deceiving, and that the quiet strength of true character will always prevail over arrogance and superficiality. If Hilda's dramatic tale of resilience and the ultimate triumph of integrity resonated with you, and if you believe in the power of standing up for yourself, please consider giving this story a like. Your support is invaluable and helps us share narratives that highlight important life lessons. For more captivating stories about unexpected twists, the complexities of human nature, and the ultimate victory of genuine character, be sure to subscribe to our channel. We genuinely invite you to comment below with your thoughts on Hilda's actions, your own experiences with deceptive appearances, or any wisdom this tale may have sparked within you. We truly value your insights and appreciate every single comment. Thank you for joining us on Hilda's journey to reclaim her power. We look forward to connecting with you again.